Coraline. It's quite a rare occurrence that a stop-motion animated project would make a huge impact in pop culture. Of course, there are a lot of fantastic stop-motion films, but there are only a handful that would end up becoming as big as The Nightmare Before Christmas, Wallace and Gromit, or Chicken Run. But then there's Coraline, which for a short moment marked as the grand return of Nightmare Before Christmas director Henry Selick. At the time, his mission was to bring to life an upcoming book by acclaimed author Neil Gaiman and would eventually become one of the most successful stop-motion animated features and getting an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature. Now, before I start this review, I just want to mention that I haven't read the book the movie was based on. But I am aware of the differences, like how the film added more into the story, like additional details to the characters, and creating a new one with Wybie. So now that we're entering into the other place, will it present to us a dazzling world that's far more whimsical than our own? Or will it make us want to sew buttons over our eyes? Let's find out. The story. The key to the story is to be a huge mix of being whimsical and being a thriller, all while crafting this entire world. In a way, Coraline is not necessarily the star of this feature, even with the title being named after her. Instead, the main component is the other world and how it would slowly but surely unravel itself as the movie would progress. The biggest role Coraline would play is to set the mood of how the world is treating her, rather it be like everyone's favorite girl or just the next victim for the villain and trying to survive. The way that the film built this world is one of the aspects that makes this movie very strong. When she first enters the other world, it's almost like this magical place that presents what Coraline wished her life would be compared to the real world. Later on, it all turns out to be a trap conducted by what is known as the Other Mother. However, in each world, there's always that one extra element to show how there could be more than meets the eye. In the real world, there's still that small sense of fantasy with the Pink Palace and the Joneses' neighbors. In the other world, after Coraline discovers the dark secrets, the elements of whimsy are still present despite being all twisted for the purpose of capturing the girl. Even when we first enter the other world, as fun as beautiful as it is, there is always that one thing that signals a little warning that something may be wrong.
You're not my mother. My mother doesn't have buttons?
Later on in the film, the plot would take a different turn from the world discovery and become this video game style scavenger hunt. While some could say that it would become a bit predictable on the outcomes, it makes it worth it for including those elements of thrills and even a great final confrontation with the villain. With its use of originality, creativity, and sets the perfect mood for audiences to feel both enchanted and scared at the same time, the writing certainly captures the essence of a great story. The animation. A little fun fact, this would be the first animated feature to come from the animation studio Laika, who would later create some other big-name stop-motion animated films like Paranorman, The Box Trolls, and Kubo and the Two Strings. With that said, there has never been an animated feature that came out as the studio's first movie with such revolutionary visuals since Pixar's Toy Story. Every aspect in the animation was carefully crafted in order to show Coraline as this strange world filled with magic that's both good and bad, and they would each have something that would really stand out as an amazing achievement. Let me just start off with the backgrounds themselves. In the real world, it does bring out that dull nature that you wish to escape from, but the Pink Palace itself stands as this gateway to the other world, like it would hold something special. As it transports audiences to the other world, that dull area breathes new life with richer colors and gives extra elements to make it more whimsical. But once those curtains are open, those friendly surroundings quickly become threatening. A perfect example of this is with the garden, with all the flowers serving a different purpose to create this one big picture. Going into the designs of the characters, it leans more into the abstract and sometimes emphasize one aspect to make them look unique, like a big head, a round stomach on a tall, lanky guy, and even...
Oh my god.
The part where we see the creativity on the designs go to a whole new level is when we see the dark side of the other characters, when they serve as an obstacle for Coraline from getting the eyes. And then there's the character animation. Even with the strange forms in the designs, they still manage to move smoothly and feel quite natural, but can get unsettling and out of the box once they turn against Coraline. The one who stands out with his movements is Mr. Bobinski with his acrobatic training and the other Bobinski circus mice performance. I could go on with many of the highlights from this movie, including all the innovative effects, but overall, it's an example of some of the greatest use of stop-motion animation. The characters. It is true that there are two versions of most of the characters, but they all remain the same to present a rather small cast that is able to fully present themselves. Let me start off with the ones who don't have another version. Coraline begins as your usual unhappy girl that just moved into a new area and then finds herself into this supernatural world. In a way, she does share some strong similarities to Alice from Alice in Wonderland or Chihiro from Spirited Away. But what Coraline has in order to gain the trust of audiences is her surroundings. Like I said before, her role is to present the mood of the current situation of the film, and that's why audiences would feel amazed when she's amazed, or they would feel scared when she's scared. There's also the cat that knows the secrets between the worlds and is the enemy of the villain, where he guides Coraline to find a way to escape from getting consumed. There is also the new character exclusively for the film, Wybie, who is the other kid around her new home that, even with an unusual appearance, he would be the first to try to make her comfortable in her environment and give her the doll. As for her neighbors, they're more like comical former entertainers, where there's April and Miriam as retired burlesque actresses, and Mr. Bobinski trying to conduct a circus of mice. With their other form, they become what they wish to be, with the actresses back as their younger selves in their prime, and Mr. B opening up an entire circus. And then there's the other mother. At first, she's depicted as the ideal mother, someone who is caring, puts her kid first, and always full of fun surprises. But then she slowly reveals to be a mix of a spider made of needles and Cruella de Vil, where she would completely fabricate this whole world in order to lure kids in and trap their souls. She would go through a huge transition from being a likable character to a threatening villain.
1, 2, 3! Ow! What are you doing?
If I would have to find criticism amongst the characters, it's that the Jones family at the beginning are quite unlikable. I mean, you have a pushover dad, a really douchey mom, and a bratty kid. I know it could be intentional to make the audiences excited to go into the other world, but the times with the real parents feel uncomfortably awkward to be in front of. But other than that, rather it be in the real or other world, the film can still present some strong, memorable characters. Coraline is an amazing animated feature that sets a brand new standard for stop-motion animation. With the combination of Neil Gaiman's creatively original story and the filmmaking magic of Henry Selick at Laika, they were able to create an extraordinary world with innovative animation, likable and fun characters, and an adventure that knows the right balance of dark and whimsy. It would all come together to create a highly memorable film. This is one of those movies that are definitely worth your time, especially if you like something that's not afraid to sprinkle in some dark elements as an extra spice to the feature. Other than The Nightmare Before Christmas, this is one of those that people would point to as one of Selick's best work, and that is why it would get the AniMat's seal of approval. Hey guys, this is AniMat. I just want to start off by giving a huge thanks to Klaus Forendel for his amazing support on Patreon, which allowed him to get some amazing rewards, including this one, which is a review of Coraline. And if there's one thing that I really do admire from that movie, is that it's not afraid to really go into the creep factor, like, anymore, and it would probably get a higher rating, like PG-13 or something like that. Well, I can't really say it would go rated R because that's when you really got to bring in the blood and guts. But no, seriously though, with Coraline, it really knows how to really tiptoe to the edge of really being suspenseful, and the buildup of it is so phenomenal. Like, when you first enter to it, like, there is still that element of creepiness. You know something is wrong immediately, especially with the fact that everybody in that world has those button eyes. But then it would keep building up and building up once the world really does unravel itself and the main purpose of what it is. But even if it's at the point where you know the whole goal, like, you know what the entire mission of this world is and who's behind all that and all that kind of stuff, like, it still unravels. It still has some elements of horror that it needs to dish out. And in a way, it really is admirable because, in a sense, it really does bring stop motion back to its roots. Before the days of computer animation and CGI and all that stuff, stop motion used to be the medium that people would use in order to go and create some monsters and to pretty much add some elements of horror onto their film. And there are plenty of great examples out there. And probably the master of all that, like the master of using stop motion with special effects, has to be Ray Harryhausen. So in a way, Coraline does bring stop motion back to its roots. And it's one of the great examples of how stop motion is kind of like a staple if you want to go and make a light horror family film, and if you want to make like a dark animated feature in a sense. It really is a great example of that. But anyways, that is pretty much it with Coraline, and now it is time that we shall move on to the animation hat. And before I begin, I just want to go out and start to say that if you guys would like to be like Klaus and you want to go and support my work and get some awesome rewards at the same time, including seeing my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is write me an no, not write me an email, that's for the other thing. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you guys would like to suggest to me an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. Okay, so with all that said, let's see if we can get one. Woo! Well, the answer is yes, then. Okay, so in that case, our next review shall be... Wait. For God's sakes, work with me, paper. What the... Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, I actually pulled out a movie that I've already reviewed. This was something that I've already done it in a previous AniMat's Classic Reviews. I think someone did a Patreon request for that, so yeah, this one doesn't count actually. And if you want to know, I actually pulled out Ants. So, okay, so this one is already done. I already did my review of Ants, by the way. You can go check it out. Anyways, okay, round two. Okay, I knew eventually that was bound to happen anyway, so okay. Next up, okay, the review shall be now, let's see. Did I review this one? No, I did not. And my God, this will be quite interesting. I wonder, did I ever review something from this guy yet? I'm not 100% sure. Actually, I don't think so. Well, anyways, I mean, it's gonna be quite fascinating because at least nowadays, it's great that we're gonna be looking at it with fresh eyes because, my god, people were not fair to it when that film was released because all people did at the time was just compare it to The Little Mermaid. But let's forget all that and judge it on its own now.
There ain't nothing like singing, and our voices just blend. Oh, let's make music together, baby.
Our sweet departed angels. Couldn't bear to part with them, so we had them stuffed.